What's up, everybody? My name's Mike Sjogren, here with my co-host,
Emanuele Pani.
We're part of a group of specialized real estate investors you've probably never heard of.
We didn't start with deep pockets or wealthy families, and we don't rely on 401ks, mutual funds, or traditional real estate investing.
In fact, many of us don't even own the properties that fund our freedom. If you ask the money experts out there, they'd say what we do is impossible, yet it's happening every single day.
It's happening through a new niche called short-term rentals.
We are Short-Term Rental Nation, and these are our secrets. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the inaugural episode of Short-Term Rental Secrets. I am so excited to be here with my brother from another mother, Mr. Emanuele Pani. What's going on, E?
What's up, brother? So good to be here. I'm so excited that we're starting this. I think it's been a long time coming. So I'm really, really excited that we get to share kind of our journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So the purpose of this episode, basically just to give a little context of what you guys can expect from the show, share a little bit of background from E and myself and how we got into this business and the effect that it's had on our lives. And basically just to give you guys a little preview of what we're going to have going on here every single week, delivering actionable content for you to launch, scale, and automate your own short-term rental business. So E, why don't you share a little bit on your background in this industry? You're kind of like an OG before this whole thing blew up.
Yeah.
And share a little bit of your background and then the impact that this business has had on your life.
Yeah. So I got into this business really by accident. And I don't think I ever knew that this is what I wanted to do. I was fresh out of college, had a degree in accounting and finance in the middle of the biggest recession of our time, at least. And I wanted to be a Wolf of Wall Street. That's what I've always wanted. I was just wanted the bigger than life kind of life and money and everything else. So that's what I wanted. Went to school in Geneva, Switzerland, where there is more banks than people. So I was like, I'm going to find a job here right after college and be a Wolf of Wall Street. And when I graduated, banks weren't hiring. And so I moved back here to South Florida. I live in a city called Boca Raton, which is about an hour north of Miami. And at the time, my mom and sister had moved from Italy, and they were living in an apartment complex that offered housing for the tennis academy. So they were fully furnished apartments. And they also offered seasonal rentals, which has been something that's very popular down here in Florida before even Airbnb became a thing. So it was the month of December. I just come back from school and I went to the leasing office of this apartment complex to ask something wasn't working at our apartment. And the gentleman that was there was like, hey, I need an extra hand around the apartment complex. You seem to speak English well. My other maintenance guy is from Israel, so he has a very strong accent and people have a hard time understanding him. Would you be interested in being a maintenance guy? And that was the beginning of my real estate journey, right? And throughout the years, and especially at the beginning, I had a lot of ego, right? Because I had a degree in accounting and finance, and I was there plunging toilets and painting apartments and picking up garbage. So that was kind of like the beginning of my journey. And then over the years, the gentleman decided to get a divorce and move back to Israel. And that was very serendipitous at the time. He's like, hey, do you want to buy the business from me? And the business was a 40-unit apartment complex here in Boca. And fast forward to nowadays, our company owns 38 out of the 40 apartments. And we remain a short-term rental community, exclusively a short-term rental community. And we have done nothing else. So that was 10 years ago. This December was my 10th season doing this. Is the beginning of my 10th season. And I still have clients that I had 10 years ago.
That's
so
amazing.
It's been an interesting journey. And we had dinner the other day with one of our clients. It's like, hey, I remember you 9 years ago bringing boxes at our apartment saying, yeah, one day we'll own all of this. And like, I want to acknowledge you because that happened. Right. So it's been a very humbling journey, it's been a very interesting journey. And I don't think I would be as good at my job if maintenance wasn't the beginning of my journey. Because the way that I look at properties now and the way that I understand Airbnb and the way I can turn over a unit, it's very different than somebody that comes from the other spectrum, right? Even seasoned real estate investors that have never hit a nail with a hammer. You know what I mean? I have a PhD in building IKEA furniture. Like I don't even use the instructions anymore. That's how many pieces of furniture I've built. You know what I mean? Like I just understand it. Like me and IKEA furniture talk to each other. So it's been definitely a lot of fun.
I love that. So from maintenance guy, college grad maintenance guy, to now owning 38 units of this apartment complex, and quite frankly, taking on other properties now outside of this complex that you've grown your portfolio above and beyond. And we'll probably do another episode where we could each deep dive into how we structured all of our deals and acquired these units and everything else, and kind of more of a step-by-step on how we did it.
No, absolutely.
But I think that giving a little bit of context is great, especially now that you and I can contrast each other.
Yeah.
Because you had the more, like you got right into it.
Yeah.
Where I got into this business 3 years ago as a side hustle working in corporate America.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
so,
I remember you as the CPA, what I wish I learned in school guy that just wanted to buy apartment buildings, right? Talking about like how we say in our intro, right? Like the different way, like we're not doing the traditional real estate investing way. And that's what people talk about all the time, right? Like start with single families and then build your way up to multifamilies. And that's what you wanted. And then look what happened 3 years later.
Yeah, exactly. So quick background on me. Ironically, I also had an accounting degree. I went to school. I did what they told me, went to school, got good grades, got a quote unquote good job as an accountant, went back, got an MBA, and I got a CPA license and all this stuff. And I spent the first 10 years of my career in corporate America. And about 3 years ago, my wife and I had our only child at this point, and he was born with a rare lung disease. And we spent a lot of time at the hospital with him. And I will never forget this moment because it changed the entire trajectory of my life. We were sitting in the hospital waiting for the doctor to come in. And I had this realization that we had been in the hospital for 3 weeks straight, and I was out of vacation time. I was out of sick time. And I had all these hospital bills piling up, and I had to leave my wife and my baby in the hospital because I need to go back to a cubicle to trade my time for money. Mm-hmm. And as a dad and as a husband, that was the worst pain I had ever felt in my entire life. And in that moment, I made a promise to my wife that I would find a way to build a business that did not rely on me to trade my time for money and could give us the income and the lifestyle that we wanted, but would also, more importantly, the time freedom so that we would never be in that situation again. And it just launched me down this path of just tenacious learning and studying everything I could. And right around that time is when you and I met, and I was looking into, traditional real estate investing. How do I, get into buying apartments and cash flow and all that? But when I did out the math, I'm like, man, I'm going to need to buy a lot of apartments to replace my salary, like a lot of apartments. We were doing pretty well. And it was going to take a long time and a lot of investor money and all this stuff. And I was like, there's got to be another way. And that was when I bumped into this whole short-term rental model, started learning and studying it, launched that business about a year later. And within, the first year I had one property. And then the next year I had 15 properties. And now we're off to the races. We're purchasing a hotel with some investors and everything else. And, my wife and I are both out of our corporate 9-to-5 jobs. And this is all we do full time now. And so I'm super passionate about this. This business has changed my life. It's given me the time freedom to do what I want with who I want, whenever I want. And I'm just super grateful. And I want to share that message with as many people as possible to inspire and empower them to realize, like, you don't have to just settle in a 9-to-5 job for the next 40 years, crossing your fingers that you're going to have enough money in your 401k one day. Yeah. There's so much more for you out there. Yeah,
and you also don't have to do it the traditional real estate millionaire next door way, because I lead with another business partner of mine. We lead an investor group, And we have a lot of newbies that come there and they're like, we're going to buy our first property, which is great. But people don't understand that majority of the time when you buy your first property, what you're really going to be adding cash flow wise to your life, it's a couple $100, right? Which there is nothing wrong with a couple $100, but that's why real estate game, it's a long-term game. That's people don't understand that. Whereas vacation rentals, it is a long-term game too, but the cash flow that you make with the business that we have is completely different. And I joke about this with people all the time. If my 38 units, if I switch them over to traditional rentals, right? Like a normal 12-month lease versus my vacation rental leasing, I make 60% of what I would make in a 12-month traditional lease the first 3 months of the year.
That's wild.
So when people are like, why do you do it? And I tell people all the time, first of all, understand you're not a landlord, you're in hospitality. So this is a hospitality business. It is a real estate business because the underlying asset is a real estate, but we're in hospitality. But that's why there's so many hotels. Hospitality pays, has always paid.
Yeah.
So
and
that's
the beauty
the
of what we're going to talk about on this show is you don't have to own the properties, right? You and I both scaled our businesses without actually owning the assets. Yeah. Now we're in a different position where we've got a track record and we've gotten results for a lot of people. So investors want to invest with us and we are acquiring assets now, but we didn't start that way. Like I didn't have any more money.
Yeah. I mean, up until a week and a half ago, my portfolio was half the size it is now. Yeah. And all those other units were all master leasing and property management agreements and really shit, man, anything that I could to get my hands on a property. Yeah, so absolutely. We have, between the two of us, we have proven every single way you can add units in this business. We have done it, you know? Yeah.
And across multiple states, right? So, you know, you've got portfolio in 3 different states between short-term and long-term rentals. I'm in 5 different states now. You don't have to do this in your backyard. And I teach people that all the time. And that's the beauty of this. And I'm just so excited to dive deep, and I want to pump the brakes a little bit because this is going to be a fun ride. Every single week, we're going to be providing actionable content, right? We want to give context in this and kind of give a preview of what we're going to be talking about. But, you know, we'll have other hosts that have built large businesses, hundreds of units. And then we'll have some folks that have learned how to buy homes in Disney World that pay for themselves and a few thousand a month on top of it in profit. Just, you know, so whether you just want to own a vacation home that pays you every month, or you want to build a business like we did to make a career out of this business runs the gamut, and there's ways to do it, whether you have no money, a little bit of money, or a lot of money, right? There's a whole bunch of ways to do it. And, I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're listening to this and you're like, hey, I'm not a number cruncher, don't worry about it. Or, hey, you're listening to this, you're like, I am a number cruncher. How is this going to make sense? We'll show you. Because the beauty of this is also something that you can do with your significant other in a way that is completely different, right? Because I know Mike, and I know my own experience with my own wife, it is very difficult to get excited about multifamily investing and cash flowing. But this business has this whole other component of decorating, creating an experience, creating a memorable experience for your customers that it's just very, very different. And it's something that can become a family business very easily, because then everybody can see the benefit. And as Mike said, you can see the benefit as you want an extra property for you guys to go on vacation because that's where you guys always love going, and make money when you're not using it. And then once that happens, it can snowball into many different properties or many different vacation homes throughout the country, throughout the world, because there is no geographical boundary to what this business is. And there is no geographical boundary to like what you can do, how many properties you can have, because this business works everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So to recap for this first inaugural episode, and to set the expectations going forward, we're going to be releasing 1 episode per week. We'll probably batch the first few, so we'll release at least 5 to 10 episodes out of the gate. And then we will release a podcast every single Monday morning, like clockwork. And every week, again, we'll be bringing in guests, or every once in a while, you and I, will do solo episodes together where we'll break down deals. We'll probably be taking questions from folks. So we'll talk about it in a future episode, but we set up a private Facebook group that listeners can go to, and we'll be streaming these videos, these podcasts over Zoom into the Facebook group so folks can ask questions and make it as interactive as possible. Again, we want to provide the most amount of value possible, the most amount of actionable steps possible, and create an engagement, create a community of short-term rental hosts that all support each other to grow and thrive in this business. This is what it's all about.
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing that's going to be amazing, even for if you're a seasoned Airbnb host, this can be your like Airbnb anonymous, right? Because like the reality of this business is not a lot of people do it. So not a lot of people understand what you go through. So this business is going to be the place, this podcast is going to be the place where you can be understood as an Airbnb host and have other people, like-minded people that understand what you're going through. Like I know Mike and I recently have gone through the same experience of having to completely furnish and turn over a unit in 2 days, 3 days. So like if you go to a normal person, you're like, hey, have you ever built an entire apartment, furnish it and equipped it in 48 hours? They'll look at you and be like, that nobody does that. So stay tuned. We'll show you some of that too, some of the back of how that works, where to get the best deals, how to do it best, all of it, all the secrets that we have combined in our little suitcase of STR secrets over years and years. So I'm excited. It's going to be a good time.
All right. That's it, STR Nation. That wraps up our first inaugural episode of Short-Term Rental Secrets. Please make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave us a review on iTunes. It truly helps, and share it with anyone that you know that is interested in getting into the short-term rental space. Airbnb, VRBO, HomeAway, Booking.com, you name it. We're here to provide actionable content every single week. So that's it, guys. Have an amazing week, and we'll see you next time.